Hi everyone, this is Harisshwar Reddy. I did my BTech from IIT Roorkee. For the past 4 years, I have been associated with askIITians as in-house expert in chemistry. So this chapter is D and F-block elements. So in this chapter, we'll be basically discussing about your transition metals and inner transition metals. So this is also an important topic for all the competitive examinations like IIT-JEE and BITSAT. So we'll be starting with our first topic, the topics covered in this chapter of D and F block elements. D and F block elements. So what are the different topics which we are going to cover in this chapter of D and F block elements? The first thing we'll do is, we'll first discuss about the introduction to transition elements. So basically in the introduction to transition elements, we'll be discussing about what are the different series present in the transition elements and what is the electronic configuration. So basically we'll get an idea what are exactly the transition elements from this part of introduction to transition elements. Next, properties of transition elements. So obviously transition elements have certain properties, right? For example, they have magnetic properties, they have the property of forming coordinate complexes, they have the property of forming alloys, right? So we'll be discussing about all the properties. We'll be not only discussing the physical properties, but also we'll be discussing about the chemical properties of the transition elements. So we'll be studying about their radii, atomic radii, we'll be studying about their ionization enthalpies, we'll be studying about their stabilities, we'll be studying about their oxidation states and all those concepts in this physical and chemical properties of transition elements. Later on, we'll move to the F block elements or inner transition elements, right? So F block elements are also called as inner transition elements. So later we'll be discussing about the introduction to inner transition elements. So basically we'll be discussing upon again what are inner transition elements, what is their electronic configuration, right? And obviously these F block elements have certain properties, right? The important properties of F block elements like Lanthanide contraction. So we'll be discussing in detail in the properties of inner transition elements. So basically these are the 4 parts which we'll be discussing in this topic of D and F block elements. We'll go to the next part. So students, we have discussed about the different topics covered in this chapter of D and F block elements or transition and inner transition elements. So I've given a glance about the topics covered, like first we'll be discussing about introduction to transition metals, then properties of these transition elements, next we'll be discussing about inner transition elements and we'll be discussing about their properties. So in our next part, first we'll be starting about the introduction to our transition elements. So till then, take care of yourself. Goodbye.